All right, we'll be going over an article from this book. It's a Hebrew book, but I translated one of the articles. The reason I wanted to go over this article is this is an article that Rabash wrote to himself. This is while Balasan was still alive, and by the article it looks like it was before the barrier. You'll see by the article. And I feel that this is a side that normally hasn't been like shared with, of like Rabash's intensive desire to actually want to pass the barrier. Normally he talks about the collective annulment and stuff, and this is to show more of a personal side of him. Okay. The passage from the holy still to the holy vegetative. 23rd of Tammuz 5709, Wednesday 20th of July 1949, from Rabash. I think that maybe the time has come that I should observe my private situation. This means my singularity that does not mix with the collective. Humanity walks on a single line, and no individual can leave the generality of that line. This means that each person has no measure and value of themselves, since they are forced and subjugated under the generality of the line. If there are differences between one another, it is only in how close or far they are from the line. However, they have no possibility to leave the line, and this discernment is called the still degree. This is because their singularity is placed as a silent rock that has no movement of itself. Rather, they can move only with the permission that the collective has given them, but no more. When a person starts to judge themselves and asks what will happen with their singularity, with their individual discernment, that the holy books refer to as outstanding individuals, this discernment is the individual against the whole collective. This is the place to leave the still degree and enter the vegetative degree. This is where the work of man begins, because in the degrees of still, we cannot work. This means that the still matter cannot receive another form in the still degree. You can work externally on the still degree, making from it various forms. However, with the vegetative degree, the matter itself receives a new form in both quality and quantity, depending on his effort. Every flower vegetation has an individual motion that changes direction depending on where the sun shines. It receives changes by winds, lightning, and thunder accordingly. They have a single discernment that unites them together, that they must go by the laws of the vegetative. However, each one feels that they have free choice. On the other hand, in the still degree, there is no one who believes they have free choice. They all justify the path of the still, that they do not need a high degree. If they see someone who starts to investigate and reach some movement of self by their views, that does not want to be connected to the entire collective, they immediately throw them out of the still collective. If the person strengthens themselves and tries to find favor in the vegetative, then the vegetative degree takes them into their domain. If they do not find favor in the eyes of the vegetative degree, then they circle in tribulations. When they come to the still degree and ask for it to take them back, and asks and pleads that they love them. However, the still degree answers unanimously that because you degraded and defamed me, that my life is not worth anything, and that it's useless to live in these situations. The still degree asks, why do you return now to us? Then the still minister stands forcefully, and under no circumstance will they accept the individual back into the still degree. When the person comes back in disappointment, the vegetative minister responds that you are not ready to enter our domain. You are tied too much to the generality of the world. Only those who desire to be individuals that do not care about the general public, but rather want to always discern how they should walk on the opposite path of the collective, only those people are part of the vegetative degree. Even though the person claims that they have rejected the collective and has no connection with them, still there are times when they crave for the collective and desire to reconnect with them. These longings blur their individuality. The vegetative minister responds that if the person decides in their mind that they do not want any more relationships with the still degree, they are welcome to join the vegetative degree. Then the person makes a promise to the vegetative minister. He starts to allow the person to enter his domain. On the middle of the way, when the individual sees someone from the still degree, they start to miss the still degree and desire to connect to the collective. When the vegetative minister senses this, he leaves the person in the middle of the path and disappears from them. When the person sees that the vegetative minister has left, they forget about the collective and start to look for him. They come up with different tricks to reach him and take to themselves all the paths that brought them to the vegetative minister previously. When the individual find him, they start to give excuses and promise that they will no longer lose any moment of time from him and will no longer look at anything outside of themselves to not remember the old love of the still degree. The vegetative minister has pity on the person and starts to bring them back into his palace. The individual then misses the collective and the vegetative minister leaves them again. This is how we move in our tribulations from the collective to our singularity and from our singularity to the collective, until by our many efforts it is decided in our soul with great fear to keep ourselves from thinking or looking at things that stop us from entering the vegetative degree.
That was incredible. Yeah, I mean, just to see that we yearn to be independent, but independent on each other, right? We want to be individuals. We don't want to be dependent on anything. And but I love it. It's this back and forth game, between the collective and the individual. That's the work.
I remember when I read this article, I was astonished because the book, I'll show the book again. This is the Gottlieb version of Shemati. And I was going over all the different articles in Hebrew. And then I suddenly found that specific article, and he writes there, and I'll translate on the fly what he says. He says, the following two articles Rabash wrote to himself, and it doesn't look like he heard it from his father. These are private letters from his amazing work, but because he wrote them in the years of his father, we decided to leave them in the framework of these articles. Thank God for that.
Yeah, I love that it's just telling you the truth, of like this internal battle that this man is having and that we all have, and it's a secret that we keep to ourselves. But on one side you show one face and another side, show another face, and it's like this internal battle,
Yeah.
I see my own path, my own walk here, that I can see myself having the struggles as I'm realizing I've outgrown a certain phase and letting go and moving on, and then being enticed back and then wanting desperately to come back to my inner, the creator in me. And he wrote it so beautifully because I see myself in that.
I think what it helped me was, we see in this society that on one hand, we want to go with the collective. We want to go where the society is going. We want to be one like everybody else. We're all going on the same goal, the same path. But then we sometimes feel like they're not going fast enough. So we want to propel ourselves forward. And then we get all that tension of, well, why are we separating ourselves from the collective? We need to be with them. But then we have this internal desire to, move faster. Like we feel that we can move faster. And it's why should we just stay behind just because the whole collective is going on a maybe a sure path, but very slow. And we just don't want to wait that long. And then we constantly have these internal conflicts of, Rav says we have to follow the society. The society is doing one thing. Why are we doing something different? Where do we get the nerve to actually do something different? So I feel that articles like this help a person understand that it's okay to want to advance, and we shouldn't ever have to delay our desires. Even though the collective's going on a slower but sure path, we don't have to. If we feel that we can advance faster, we should be allowed to do so.
It sounds like the expansion and the contracting that we experience in our consciousness and our awareness and perceptions.
Yeah, I agree.
think we get so attached to this idea that we have to be loyal to the material body or the structure of the society, and really we need to be loyal to the goal. And if that means that our desire is taking us faster, you need to be loyal to that, loyal to the time, loyal to your usage of the time, and loyal to your direction of your intention, the goal. And realize that there's nothing wrong with disconnecting to propel the goal forward. Because you're not really connecting to the goal. They'll eventually come up.
Yeah, I agree.
And when does this shift happen that the person rejects the still forever and goes for the vegetative?
I think it's important to remember we're not talking about what a person is actually doing in reality. We're talking here about perception. So it's not talking about, do I go to the lessons or do I go to the society? It's talking about how are we using the society? Or are we in the society? There's another article in this book that I'll probably want to translate that talks about this concept of you're meant to use the society, not plateau on them. And that's actually, and it talks about that it's actually called idol worshipping. So the goal, the creator needs to be your driving force and not the society. And as long as the society is your driving force, then that's idol worshipping because you're sort of dependent on anything but the goal. And that the idea is that you're meant to only work for the creator, and then you're using all the environment around you to actually propel you to get there. So we're not talking about what happens physically. You could have two people doing the exact same action in reality. While in the perception, it's totally different. One is doing everything because society told him to, and this is what the society does. So I guess, I'm part of them. I should just do what I'm told. The other person is doing the exactly same thing, but he's doing it because by this, I'm going to get discernments. I'm going to have that tension. I want to become the creator. And that's his driving force. The goal is his driving force and not the environment around him.
Yeah, I understand that, but what I mean is that, is there really a time in which the person doesn't achieve, leaves his still frame of mind and enters only the vegetative, and how does this shift happen, or how to make it happen so one doesn't fall to the still level?
I would say that you have this conflict until 4.4, I'd say, until you reach the last level before the barrier, which is spirit and spirit. Then you're totally in the vegetative degree. From the world's perspective, if you're looking from it bottom up, from complete reality, so you're going to be in already the world of Yetzirah, so you're not in a sea anymore. So you're just totally in the Yetzirah is like the vegetative degree, so you're just totally in there. And again, it's not talking about what we're doing in reality, it's talking about our perception. Do we feel the need to have safety? Is our anchor the society or is our anchor the goal? And that will basically decide if we can pass a barrier or not, because as long as our anchor is something in reality, it doesn't matter what it is, it could be the society, it could be the Rav, it could be any physical manifestation. As long as that is your anchor point, you can't pass the barrier. You're still tied in your perception to reality. It's only when you disconnect from that and in your perception you're like, I'm fully into the goal, that's when you can actually pass the barrier, because you've got nothing holding you back in this world. It's like a rocket propelling to space. If there's any cable still holding it to the ground, it won't able to leave. It needs to be totally freed from the ground so it can actually reach the sky.
Well, sounds hard.
Well, I'm just curious. It does happen in our perception, and sure, that's what changes. but there has to be moments in a person's life along their development where they feel that they're living out these struggles. It's one thing just to say, oh, my perception's changed, but there has to be moments of perception changing. At least that's what was remembered.
Yeah, the struggle is part of the actual work itself. It's the effort itself. The struggle between the still and the vegetative causes you to get all different discernments, which are related to both levels. If you just were, thrown directly into vegetative, you wouldn't have all those discernments. So the struggle is, if you're going through that struggle, that means you're actually advancing. The struggle is good. It is not to stay in the struggle, but the struggle is a sign of you actually having this pull, this internal pull. If someone doesn't have this struggle, most of the chances it's just because he's in the still degree and has no vegetative in him, which is active to actually cause the struggle. So the struggle only happens when a person has an active vegetative degree within him, and he has an active still degree within him, and then he starts fighting between them and starts clashing. So you'll find that many people that they're very relaxing and enjoying the society and having no, or at least showing like they have no problems. It's mostly because they just have a still degree and they don't have that vegetative in them to pull them forward, to be the unique individual, the outstanding individual that was talked about in the article.
Well, it's just it feels as if at one point there is a monumental amount of effort being done by an individual that doesn't really stop, but it just seems that at some point it concentrates, and instead of feeling like a monumental amount of effort on the outside, it goes to the inside, and then exteriorly it's as if a person is calm, or at least okay with everything that's going on, to be honest. So it feels like that inversion really happens, where when things become still, that it's just, you understand what it means that the Creator's at rest. You can be internally going nuts over this thing, but you don't have to be. And then it just feels like that becomes more of a choice, as to see how much tension you really want to take.
I agree. In all the stages up to and including darkness, it's more like forced onto you. But when you enter the spirit stage, then you're actually, you're no longer having to go, the system is not forcing on you, you're actually choosing to go through these tensions, and you're choosing to actually connect with this still degree to sort of allow these situations to happen. So instead of it being forced on you by your desires, the desires let you go, and now you're just doing that, you're adding the tension yourself. So instead of the tension being applied onto you, you're actually fully aware of the tension. You're actually going into situations to raise the tension yourself.
So the method of Kabbalah can be summarized as follows. I go to the society to get spiritual discernments from all levels to increase my desire for spirituality. So I can then face the revelation of evil and undergo all of this pain and be able to rise above it until we complete many degrees. Is that the method of Kabbalah?
Well, the question is, what do you find pain if you're going to work out? Is it painful to work out? Yes, but people don't sense it's pain. No one goes to work out and says, oh, I'm now going to have pain. Normally they're smiling and happy, and they're putting on dance music and working out, and they're feeling so good with themselves. So is their body going through pain? Yes, it is, but they're above it, because the goal is sort of, it covers. It's like they say that love covers all the flaws. That's in your perception. So if someone came and checked your body, they would say, your body's in pain. And you're like, yeah, maybe my body's in pain, but I don't sense it as pain because I'm actually enjoying this, because I'm actually going somewhere. And the goal is more important to me than the pain. So when the goal is more important than the pain, then you don't sense it as pain anymore. It's the same reason where we can cut our nails and we don't sense it as pain. It's a level below us. We have our animal degree, which is our body, but our nails and our hair is vegetative degree. So that's why when you cut your hair off or cut your nails off, you don't feel it. It's a degree lower than you. So the same in our perception. If the importance of the Creator becomes so important to me, then I'll actually, it won't be painful for me. I actually want it. I'll be like, yeah, bring it on. Like, I want to increase to the next level. Give me my next left so I can advance faster. I can take this. So on a reality level, yes, you could say it's painful, but it's all about the perception anyway. If in your perception you feel it is good, then it's not pain.
And is this the trade back we get from not advancing in the path of pain? Like we get this pain which we don't sense as pain instead of getting the pain we do sense as pain?
Yeah, the difference between the path of pain and the path of Torah is the path of Torah, you want the pain, so it's not pain anymore. The path of pain is when it's forced on you. We can see in many activities, if we do the activity ourselves, then we actually enjoy it. But if that activity is forced onto us, then it causes us pain. So the process is also here. The process, we have to go through it. The question is the process going to be forced on us, and that's called pain? Or will we take it onto ourselves, and then it's not pain, and you actually get to enjoy it? So you're still going through the same phases. You can decide how you want it to do. Do you want to go with the speed of the still degree, which is, it's going to be painful because you're not going to actually decide when it's going to happen. The system is going to force it onto you. But if you actually take advantage of the situation and actually start advancing yourself using the system and the environment given to you, then you actually can advance faster than the system would have hit you, and then you can actually enjoy the whole thing.
Oh, okay, good.
Can we read it again?
The passage from the Holy Still to the Holy Vegetative, 23rd of Tammuz, 5709, Wednesday, 20th of July, 1949, by Rabash. I think that maybe the time has come that I should observe my private situation. This means my singularity that does not mix with the collective. Humanity walks on a single line, and no individual can leave the generality of that line. This means that each person has no measure and value of themselves, since they are forced and subjugated under the generality of the line. If there are differences between one another, it is only in how close or far they are from the line. However, they have no possibility to leave the line, and this discernment is called the still degree. This is because the singularity is placed as a silent rock that has no movement of itself. Rather, they can move only with the permission that the collective has given them, but no more. When a person starts to judge themselves and asks what will happen with their singularity, with their individual discernment that the holy books refer to as outstanding individuals, this discernment is the individual against the whole collective. This is the place to leave the still degree and enter the vegetative degree. This is where the work of man begins, because in the degree of the still, we cannot work. This means that the still matter cannot receive another form in the still degree. You can work externally on the still degree, making from it various forms. However, with the vegetative degree, the matter itself receives a new form in both quality and quantity, depending on his effort. Every flower, vegetation, has an individual motion that changes direction depending on where the sun shines. It receives changes by winds, lightning, and thunder accordingly. They have a single discernment that unites them together, that they must go by the laws of the vegetative. However, each one feels that they have free choice. On the other hand, on the still degree, there is no one who believes they have free choice. They all justify the path of the still, that they do not need a higher degree. If they see someone who starts to investigate and reach some movement of themselves by their views that does not want to be connected to the entire collective, they immediately throw them out of the still collective. If the person strengthens themselves and tries to find favor in the vegetative, then the vegetative degree takes them into their domain. If they did not find favor in the eyes of the vegetative degree, then they circle in tribulations. When they come to the still degree and ask for them to take them back and asks and pleads that they love them. However, the still degree answers unanimously that because you degraded and defamed me, that my life is not worth anything and that it is useless to live in these situations. The still degree asks, why do you return now to us? Then the still minister stands forcefully and under no circumstance will they accept the individual back into the still degree. When the person comes back in disappointment, the vegetative minister responds that you are not ready to enter our domain. You are tied too much to the generality of the world. Only those who desire to be individuals, that they do not care about the general public, but rather want to always discern how they should walk on the opposite path of the collective. Only those people are part of the vegetative degree. Even though the person claims that they have rejected the collective and has no connection with them, still there are times when they crave for the collective and desire to reconnect with them. These longings blur their individuality. The vegetative minister responds that if the person decides in their mind that they do not want any more relationship with the still degree, they are welcome to join the vegetative degree. Then the person makes a promise to the vegetative minister. He starts to allow the person to enter his domain. On the middle of the way, when the individual sees someone from the still degree, they start to miss the still degree and desire to connect to the collective. When the vegetative minister senses this, he leaves the person in the middle of the path and disappears from them. When the person sees that the vegetative minister has left, they forget about the collective and start to look for him. They come up with different tricks to reach him and to take to themselves all the paths that brought them to the vegetative minister previously. When the individual finds him, they start to give excuses and promise that they will no longer lose any moment of time from him and will no longer look at anything outside of themselves to not remember the old love of the still degree. The vegetative minister has pity on the person and starts to bring them back into his palace. The individual then misses the collective and the vegetative minister leaves them again. This is how we move in our tribulations from the collective to our singularity, and from singularity to the collective, until by our many efforts it is decided in our soul, with great fear, to keep ourselves from thinking or looking at things that stop us from entering the vegetative degree.
It's like saying not to look in the past, to keep looking forward and in the now.
Yeah.
But there's really nothing you're going to be able to do about it. You're going to interact with all levels. So I mean, when that interaction happens, it is a strange longing just to sit there and contemplate. Oh, can I advance them? Maybe there's effort I can do, and then you realize that it's them and not you.
And that this process repeat itself from the vegetative to the animate and from the animate to the speaking in the same way, or is there a difference?
So the vegetative is half before the barrier and half after the barrier. And then the animal and speaking levels are above the barrier. So you're totally disconnected from the still degree. That is no longer your desire to be tranquil and relaxing, but rather your goal is to be this absolute power. You already, become the creator in some small amount. So all you want is power. You don't want filling anymore. You don't see that as a worthwhile goal in the first place. And all the work before the barrier is just to get out of that inborn desire to want to just, why can't we just have a good life? Why can't the world just be a better place? We'll just relax, we'll respect each other, we'll love each other, we'll all get on our lives, have a happy family, have a happy life, and good luck. And so cleansing yourself from that perspective, which is being in the shells, that's the movement upwards to actually then cross the barrier. So when you cross the barrier, it's when you have lost all your desire for filling as a goal. So it doesn't mean you're not eating and watching movies and stuff in reality. It's something that it's not your aspiration anymore. There's nothing left in your aspiration to want filling. All your aspiration is to become power, of course, internally, because external power is filling.
So the most difficult transition is from the still to the upper half of the vegetative?
The hardest work is in chaos, I would say, because, and it's in chaos in every degree. So the fourth phase is always unformed, chaos, darkness, and spirit. So when we enter a new degree, we're unformed, we're just like finding out what is over here. Then we enter chaos, and we normally get stuck the most in chaos because we're having a conflict of interest. We're thinking, oh, this will probably advance me, and we actually ignore the things that will actually advance us. And that whole chaos where we're like, well, it's this, is it that? And that discernments, most of the discernments are done in the chaos to get you out of understanding, at least, that the goal filling is no longer needed. And then through darkness and spirit, then you're just turning that into an emotion, turning that into internal. So instead of just being understanding in your mind, you actually are able to desire it. It's like we see some people understand that smoking is bad, but they can't stop. But if someone doesn't understand that smoking is bad, then how are you going to be able to convince him to stop? So most of the learning process is in the chaos part, where you're trying to convince someone why smoking is bad for him. When you've succeeded in convincing him that smoking is bad, then he enters the darkness of that phase where he's like, okay, I see that I'm stuck in a situation where I'm still smoking. How do I get out of this? I know that it's wrong, and I want to get out of it. I want to actually, not smoke anymore. And then spirit is when he's actually stopping to smoke. And then when he totally stops smoking, then he's like past that. That's, of course, a physical example. But in spirituality, it works exactly the same. So when we're unformed, before we get a point in the heart, our whole goal in life is filling. And we get a point in the heart and we start getting these conflicting ideas, because the point in the heart wants power, because it's the creative part in us that is sort of sunk to our level and is trying to bring us back up. It's really who we are, really. But it was just hidden beforehand, so we're just like stuck in reality, like, oh, reality is all there is. And the point in the heart is the perception. It's our power part in us. And then we go into chaos and we start constantly thinking, wait a second, so I'm meant to want power or am I meant to want filling? And that whole figuring out, I want power, but still the goal in the end is filling, right? Like I'm getting power for filling. So you still think in the end the goal is still filling in chaos. And it's to break yourself out of that concept. Once you've succeeded, using the friends, the books, the society, cleaning your concepts, then you can go to the darkness degree when I understand perfectly well that the goal is no longer filling. And even though I'm having filling in life, it's not my goal anymore. So it's just a side thing. It's just like, well, I need to eat, or I'm just gonna have fun, or I'll pick on someone, like that gives me filling, and that's fine, but it's not my goal. It's not my aspiration in life, in darkness. But you still understand that I understand that the goal is a power not filling, but I still feel that I need filling. And that's darkness. Darkness is when you realize that, well, I'm stuck in filling, even though I understand that the goal is power. That's where you feel it's darkness. I know what light is, and I understand that I'm not in the light. I'm in darkness. And then when you're able to stop contemplating on what you lack, which is that when you stop thinking about your state, which is I'm in darkness, then you can move to the spirit where all you're thinking about is the light. All you're thinking about is power. So you're not thinking about filling anymore. You're thinking more and more about power. And then when the last subconscious emotion of filling leaves you, that's when you propel into past the barrier.
And these 4 stages don't apply after the barrier, right?
After the barrier, it's totally different. So after the barrier, you're already in your internal power. You're living in your perception. You're growing it, which is the Shabbat zone. And then you pass the paracel, which is where you can actually express now your power to others. And then like the stages after that. But the idea is that you're not, the goal of filling is 0% when you pass the barrier. In your emotion, in your subconscious, and in your consciousness.
So the difference between being in Yetzirah and being in Absolute is the amount of power, of internal power?
Yeah, so the idea is that from 0%, which is the bottom of a Siyah with no power, which is called this world, until Olam Ein Sof, which is absolute power, there's 125 degrees of power. And when I have enough internal power, which is the 14 first degrees, which are called the shells, when I pass that, then I have a 10 Sefirot range, and then I actually have power that I actually can sense myself as in my perception and not as someone in reality. So we see when a person is born into this world, he looks around and sees other people. So he's like, oh, I'm just another person in the world, and I'll live like everybody else and have to just, support everybody else, and we're living in this together. And as he becomes more and more egoistic, then he suddenly feels this distance. He looks around, he looks at people like they're puppets. He's like, what's happening? Like, I used to be that I thought every person had his own free choice and he was accountable and responsible. And then he's sort of like, look at these people, they're walking around like robots. And that's because you're going through that perception change. You're suddenly understanding, wait a second, I'm not actually in reality. I'm looking at reality, but I'm not actually in it. Reality is within me. I'm not within reality. And that perception change, that movement from understanding that I'm actually in my perception and not in reality, so my perception is viewing reality, but I'm not actually in reality, that change is that growth. On the one hand, we become more egoistic because, wait a second, if the people aren't real and stuff, then I can use them more. I feel less of that, they're so real, they're so tangible. You lose that sort of feeling, and you start to want to use people more for the goal. It turns out it's also beneficial for them because they also get power as well. That's the difference between filling and power, that if you work for filling, then people normally lose if someone's at the top. So the person at the top gets the most, and everybody else, gets leftovers. So like the 1% is rich, and then everybody else is poor. But in spirituality, you don't have that limitation. So the only factor stopping someone from growing is his own desire. While in physicality, someone might, want to be, in power, but he can't overpower somebody else. So it's like a zero-sum game, either me or you. But with power, it can be both of us. And actually, we enjoy both of us to be in power. So we're basically going from you could say, a flat reality where we're just like, you've got this flat plane and you've got people on this plane, it's going to become like a computer game where I'm just looking at a screen, I'm hearing all this, audio stuff, I can smell and all these senses, but it's like, an augmented, like a virtual reality game. And once I'm aware of it, then I can start to use it. I can actually start to learn the game's rules, manipulate them, to actually, advance in the levels and get more power.
It's a matter of surrender to that goal.
Yeah, it is funny. Like, if we had the choice, we'd be like, well, the creator's got a wrong intention, and what I've got to annul his wrong intention, like, because our intention, we think, is filling. So then the creator has the wrong intention. He has the intention for power, and we always, look down on people in society that have power. We're like, that's bad. It's better to just be a nice human being and do what you're told, and that's great. And what's this whole thing about power and these Kabbalists, the lunatics? They not only do they they don't want to control the world, they want to become the creator. Like, that's the most egoistic goal a person can think of. Who do they think they are? So it's very hard for people on lower phases, especially people which are plateaued on lower phases, to accept this idea of we can actually grow to where we were from the beginning. We were designed for this.
I think it was a great article. Just from listening to everybody's questions and everything, it just makes me feel confident that I'm particularly doing the right things. So I'm happy to hear that. Definitely, as far as like perception and how you view things, when you're definitely faced with issues in life, it's all about how you see them, right? And I love that analogy in the gym where people are going in there and like they're putting themselves in pain, but for a goal. And if you can overcome anything your way with your perception, all towards the goal, then then everything just becomes a lot easier, and I'm definitely experiencing that. And I could see personally my life is definitely changing, the reality I'm seeing. And it's almost like to the point where I'm a little, it's basically I'm not believing it almost. I'm kind of like skeptical and kind of asking for more attention because it's sort of not, it's almost sort of disappeared a little bit. So it's a strange feeling,
Well, the thing is, as we advance, it scares us sometimes because it's a lot of responsibility. It's a lot of power to handle, we can see in this generation, especially people who want to advance, words of power actually register in them much easier. So to someone who wants to advance, if you say the word bestowal, there's just like nothing, no response to that. Like, I don't know what that is. It sounds like something so far away. I have no clue. But when you say to someone internal power, it registers with him. Like, oh, power. My ego responds to that. I have a vessel to respond to that. While you'll find that people that don't want to advance, you say to them power, they're like, no, I don't want power. Like, I just want to do what the Rav tells me to do, what the society tells me to do, and that's fine. I'm fine for life. And that's fine. So actually by using words like power, force, that can help very quickly differentiate between the people that actually want to advance and those who don't. Because those who don't want to advance they're not scared, they're just like, they don't like the idea in the first place. While those who want to advance are scared of the responsibility and the feeling of power, but they still want to move along anyway. And like, you can use the word bestow, you can use the word influence, you can use the word control. So bestowal sounds all nice. Oh, I'm bestowing to others. Influence, you're like, okay, he's influencing me, but I still can decide what I want to do, right? And then control is like that maximum thing is, wait a second, he's controlling me and I have no say in the matter? He'll actually make me want to help him, help the Kabbalist. I'll get enjoyment from helping him, but he's actually controlling me the entire time. That sounds very egoistic. So you can see how the same word, they're all the same meaning, but they register differently within us. So bestow is just like something out of the blue. Influence, oh, I understand influence, influencing others. And then control sounds like the most egoistic thing, like what, I'm taking away their free will. But then you're like, yeah, but you have no free will to start with. So receiving filling and bestowing power. So receiving something or giving out control. It's like we see with satellite dishes, where the broadcaster, right, the bestower, controls the content you get to see. So you're receiving the channels, you're receiving the content, and the broadcaster, the TV company, actually decides what you're going to watch. So they're bestowing to you. That's exactly what a Kabbalist does. A Kabbalist bestows to people the content that he wants, and he gets to decide what the content will be. And the person just receives it. So that's another egoistic example of what this bestowal actually means.
Can you repeat the example? Sorry.
The example is of, if you have TV, you're tuning to channels, and the person who controls that channel list, that list of channels, is the broadcaster. Like Cablevision or what's their name? Comcast, right? Sky. They control the channels that you get to see on the broadcast. They decide you'll get to see channel 1, channel 2, and channel 3. And you're like, what about channel 4? And like, no, you don't get to see channel 4. They get to decide what you get to see. So the idea is that the person of a higher power always gets to control the content that the lower receives. The difference is that in the physical world, the broadcaster is never the customer. The customer is the customer, and the broadcaster is the broadcaster. In spirituality, the person can be both a customer to a high degree, but a broadcaster to a low degree.
Saying what? Like a customer to a higher degree saying what? Bestowing to a higher degree?
No, so a customer to a high degree is receiving from the high degree.
Receiving from a high, yeah.
Yeah, so you got the high degree bestowing to the low degree, and the low degree receiving from the high degree.
And you would hope it'd be receiving as a slave.
Well, well, it depends what we're talking about. If the content is how to become more powerful, then you want to receive it as a son. It's only when we're talking about filling that you want to receive it as a slave.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, to receive filling as a slave and bestowing as a son.
Right. But the idea is you're receiving, it's so funny, you're receiving the primacy of the next level. So you're receiving power. You're receiving bestowal. It's going to was one of these opposites. And receiving the ability to bestow. It's like you receive a position, a high position. So you're receiving that high position, but then when you have that high position, then you can actually bestow to others.
And this has been available only after 1995, you said? Like before the Kabbalists couldn't control people or something? I think you said once.
No, the Kabbalists always were able to control people. The difference is that the desire in the people didn't become prevalent. It didn't. The point in the heart didn't start, awakening in like so many people around the world. We see the rates of suicide and depression and just the inability for people to be quiet and relaxing. They can't be by themselves alone. Has skyrocketed since 95. So the Kabbalists were always able to control. That was one of the reasons why it was hidden, because you don't want, when the ego wasn't strong enough, so the person was susceptible to actually able to attain stuff without much effort, the Kabbalah had to be hidden. Because if this power came to someone who didn't have the right rule books, didn't have the right instructions, how to handle this power, it could actually cause a lot of damage. So that's the reason why Kabbalah was actually hidden. In this generation, the reason why it can be so prevalent is because the ego has grown to a point where the ego will do the filtering for us. So let's say, for example, put out a system concepts article, and the person who's reading it, his ego will actually decide whether it's for him or not. So I don't have to do that filtering. I don't have to be like, oh, I can only send it to this person. I can only send it to that person. I've got to send like papers and send it to specific places and have to encrypt it and stuff. Like this, I can send it totally open. It's in English. People can actually read it. And the person itself will decide, can I handle this power or not? And if he can't, he'll be like, you know what, this is not for me, or this sounds nonsense, or this sounds too painful, and we'll leave. And you'll have somebody else who's be like, wow, this is just like really clean, my concepts. I never, I always felt it, but it was like, this validates, my emotions and my desire. And then he actually, continues on reading and cleaning those concepts. So the idea is that the filtering is done today by the person because of the ego is so deep in its level.
I think it was a very good article too. It really, it confirmed a lot of things that I had questioned about.
I think that's what the article is for. Like, remember, this was written by Rabash to himself. This wasn't written for somebody else. So all the articles that he wrote from 84 to 92, they were written for other students. So Rabash encrypted himself into those articles so that a person who's not ready will just follow the article on the most shallow level, and he'll be like, but I'm doing what Rabash told me to. And that's exactly what he wanted. So the idea was, because it was before this time when the ego was so strong, he had to actually encrypt the advancement. So he's like, the left line is advancement, but on the right line it's happiness, and you should go to the right line. It's like, you just told me that on the left I can actually advance. Yeah, but Rabash told us to go the right line, so of course we have to just follow what Rabash says. So those who follow what Rabash says, they, may they stay in the still degree and enjoy themselves. But those who want to advance, I can advance on the left. Yeah, I'll be defying Rabash, but who cares? If my desire is to advance, I'll advance. Who cares what if someone says, like, Shelly, there's gold in the other room, but don't go there. And you're like, why should I go there? And I'm like, oh, it's too much work. And you're like, well, Zach told me not to go in the other room. He said it's too much work. I should listen to him. Like, you're not going to even go and peek. You're not going to even check, maybe, for yourself. Like, the importance of what you can get, if that's more than the risk that you're taking, then you'll do it. But if someone doesn't see the importance, he'll be like, oh, I better be safe and sound and just be happy.
Well, I'd rather go and see what I'm missing before I decide I don't want to do it.
Why is it so much responsibility, this power? If it's done automatic, the creator, like, one is aware that the creator arranges things automatically.
I was today at lunch with a religious person, and sometimes I enjoy myself and take the mickey out of them. So I know that he believes that God is some deity outside of him. And the funny thing is that when I tell him that the Creator is inside of me, he sees that as idol worshipping. So the idea is that his idol worshipping is so perfect that from his perspective, if I tell him even the speck of truth, for him that's like the worst concept. The Creator's outside of us. He's got nothing to do with us. How could you dare to put him inside of you? And that means from anything, from reality to perception to free choice to anything. Like, he thinks he has free choice. The Creator has free choice, and that's it. We're just two separate entities, and we'll have a conversation maybe. Or the conversation is, he tells me what to do, and if I do it, then he won't kill me. But then Kabbalah comes around, and it's like, well, the vessel and the light are inside of you, and they reach adhesion, and so the Creator is actually inside of you. And that movement. So you see how people in phase one, like the person I was talking to, I immediately analyzed him as a phase one person. He's a religious Jew, keeps the physical commandments, more or less happy in life, And for him, the concept of a high degree is just like ludicrous. Like, I don't even want to think about it. That just sounds total heresy to me. How would I even think that I could have the creator, such the big creator within me? And it's funny to see that, but it's again, that's a protection of self. If I think I have free choice, why would I want to think that somebody else is controlling me, or some other force within me which is controlling me? Most people think in their consciousness they have free choice, and more today science is showing, well, actually the subconscious is actually controlling you, and that more and more people are like okay with, they understand, or a person did this because subconsciously he had a need for it. And then we're understanding it's even going deeper, it's going to the desire level. And then if you go even deeper, it's like, oh, it's in the intention. The intention defines all my actions, all my desires, and then my subconscious and consciousness and so forth. And then the highest is where you say, well, actually, I'm just connecting also the creator to that whole line of thought. So the creator controls my intention is controlling my desires, subconscious, conscious, subconscious, thoughts, emotions, speech, action, reality. And that's that whole line. And when I say I, the corrected intention is when I can put the creator into that mix. So when I say I, I'm including everything from the creator all the way down to reality.
But that didn't answer my question. Why is it such a responsibility to have so much power?
Well, because it's like, we see that when a person becomes a parent, he immediately feels that increased responsibility. Like he has kids, he has babies, and he has to suddenly feels like, whoa, I can't just party around. Like I've got to take care of them. If I don't feed them, they'll die. If I don't take care of them, they'll get sick. That's responsibility. Remember we read in chapter 5 of the One Precept, where he talks about, at the beginning a person builds a family, and that's already that, increased egoism, and he has to include his members of his family as himself. So we'll see many times that people will, save their family before they save themselves. They think of their family as themselves. So from their perspective, saving their family is saving themselves. And then you've got a person who expands even more, and he wants to take a position of power in the society and actually influence others, right? If when people want to, go into the, become a minister or a president, they're wanting to influence others. They think they know something, and they want that power to influence other people's opinions. It's the whole idea of media as well. The difference is all those influences are done external, so that there's a direct clash between one person's opinion and another person's opinion. While in spirituality, it's behind the scenes. So, for example, a Kabbalist can insert thoughts and emotions into you, but you're not even aware of it. He's doing it, of course, because he wants to advance, and he's actually giving you thoughts and emotions to advance you as well. That is, the Kabbalist doesn't, that's the Kabbalists look at people like Hitler and just have disdain for them. Like, really, why kill people? That's such a useless use of people. A much higher use of people is actually to control them and empower them and enhance them, and then it enhances me. Because if you kill someone, that's it. The energy's gone, and that's it. Now what? But if you're empowering someone, then they can actually give you discernments on higher levels that just increases your power. So it's still control, but it's done behind the scenes. And that's a lot of responsibility. Think of able to control your boss, control the people around you, control your wife, control your kids. That is a lot of responsibility. And we don't normally talk about this, because it sounds very scary. But I'm seeing more and more that this generation, you can talk about it, and then most people will be like, oh, that sounds very bad. I'm leaving, this is a cult or whatever. And then you've got the few people that actually say, well, that actually makes sense. That, that if the creator is controlling us, to become the creator means to control everyone. And when you actually think about it, it sounds so simple, but we're afraid of that responsibility, so we hide it. We're like, yeah, the creator's a creator, yeah, he's controlling us, but I'm going to become the creator as well. It's like, don't you understand? By becoming the creator, you're going to control. If you reach total adhesion with the creator, that means you're controlling the entire world. You're bringing the whole world forward.
So are the Kabbalists worried about keeping people safe? Or they don't care about that? They just care about empowering them. Like you said, I'm influencing my wife and kids. So you're afraid that you may harm your family with this power?
No, because
I'm just
yeah,
wondering.
go for it, Brent.
Right. It just feels like it's more like control is a good word, and it makes sense. But it's more influence makes more sense, and power maybe develop makes a lot of sense too. You're influencing them in order to develop them, but you really a lot of times when we see this recognition of evil, we need to notice it somewhere. So I mean, if we are trying to influence them, there could be an experiment behind the scenes that's an idea of your own self-development. So you're not doing anything other than exposing evil potentially, or a lack of power is another way to look at it. But it's really, you're developing them so much as controlling, and you're influencing them, but in a positive way, even if to them it seems derogatory. Well, what do the uneducated know? They don't know any better.
Well, the best part is they don't actually know that they're being controlled. But the idea is you only do it to the people that you know they're susceptible to it. So if someone's a phase 1 and he's platoon phase 1, I won't touch him. What's the point? I might use the phase 1 to help me with different corporeal things I need, but I won't start to cause them descent and actually make them search for the creator. Like if they're not ready for it, they're not ready for it. But if someone's actually ready, I'll help. You want to help them. You want to actually empower them. You want to give them this energy to just help them push themselves forward. And because it's behind the scenes, it's going through the system. The person doesn't feel like he's getting any extra help, but he is. He's getting loads of help, and he's not aware of it at all. So yeah, it is. It's influence. It's control. But it's empowering the internal part. So on one hand, you could say yes, there is also an external control of a Kabbalist can think of a certain situation and direct it towards there. So for example, he wants to leave work early. He doesn't want to take a taxi, but he wants to get to some place. Then suddenly someone says, "Oh, I'm actually going to that direction. Do you need a lift?" So from their perspective, they just thought it up, and they think that it's totally their free choice, and and I had nothing to do with it. And then what they don't know is that I've just admitted, you could say, to the, when people say admit to the universe, admit to the system, I want to go somewhere. You gave me that desire to go there. Help me out. And then the system's like, here, take this guy. So it's all behind the scenes. And even if you told that person that you gave him that, that thought, he would totally ignore you. He'd be like, yeah, right. Sure. So you'll normally use phase 1 people to actually do stuff. Phase 2, phase 3, and phase 4, you won't use them to do stuff. You'll use them more to advance them, so they'll give you high discernments. You want these high discernments. You want to be able to grow. And the only way you're going to grow is with these discernments. So you need them to be on a high level of power in order to give you more quality discernments. So you're going to give them that energy, that fighting power. You're going to increase their fighting power to actually want to advance.
So basically, a Kabbalist is a good person with levels 2, 3, and 4, and a bad person with level 1.
If you're looking at the bad and good of what humanity sees it as, then yes.
And is this like if Kabbalists want all the humanity to reach internal power, why not destroy the whole world and have everyone in crisis to bring them to study Kabbalah and to know their real self? Or is this like what the Kabbalists are planning soon?
Well, the thing is that you can see people that they can go through horrendous things and nothing changes. So there's no point in making fireworks if no one's going to watch them. So the Kabbalists don't just do things, like, oh, let's try this. Like they try it internally before they try it out externally, and the system also agrees with it. Remember, like it's joining the one single power that's driving everything. And it sounds, I love how it sounds so evil. So it sounds like, oh my God, you've got power, that's terrible. No one should have that kind of power. But on the end, you see how the system is just, pushing us towards that. People are feeling that lack of control of their lives. What does a person complain about? A person is complaining about that he has no control over his life. So if there was no desire for that, then why would he be complaining? If he was just meant to annul and just, let everybody else just, do what they want, then why is he complaining that, why is it I can't control? Why is it my boss won't listen to me? Why is it my wife won't listen to me? Why is it my spouse won't listen to me? Why aren't my kids listening to me? All those requests are requests for power. They're not requests for filling. So Kabbalah's like, oh, that's your request? Yeah, I can help. I can give you that power. And the person comes to Kabbalah, he's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. You mean you can actually give me that power? That sounds scary. It's like, you just complained about that you wanted that power. And I'm gonna able to give it to you, and you're suddenly like scared, like, oh, I don't actually want to control my kids. I don't actually want to control my boss. I don't want to actually control my life. I just, you know what, I'll forget about it. I'll just have feeling, let everybody control me, and good night. Like, you see how that's the chaos. That's where our complaints are lack of power, but what we think about is feeling.
And like how to avoid harming someone, like killing him or injuring badly with the intention as a Kabbalist, or like, is that never going to happen?
Why would a Kabbalist kill someone? What's the point? Just lost energy.
Right.
That's actually a waste of energy.
Because the person is going to kill the Kabbalist hates the person because of something, or that just doesn't apply there.
Well, you can see like you can see in this world, we you know, evil is relative. You know, if you're in a country which is, let's say, an ally with the United States, and the United States goes and kills someone, you're going to be like, fine, that's okay, they're my enemy. But if you're living in that country, that is evil from your perspective. So evil is a very relative subject. So if you're saying, oh, this guy is going to, you know, destroy the world, and the Kabbalist kills him, is that bad or good? Like, who decides? So the idea is that a Kabbalist has at least a correct intention, so he's at least aligned with the system. While a noble person will do an action he doesn't even know, at least in his subconscious or conscious, he has no clue of, you know, why he did it. So he did it, he killed someone, but he has no clue how it helps the system. He thinks he did it for his own self-benefit, like, oh, I only care about myself or my own, you know, area. So the Kabbalist is always taking the whole system into account, including all the individuals and details in the system.
For instance, my girlfriend sometimes says she's so pissed at me that she feels like killing me. If she were a Kabbalist, could she kill me?
If she was a Kabbalist, she wouldn't be having those thoughts. So the idea is that
okay,
right. So the idea is like, why do you want to, you know, like, first of all, when people say that, mostly they don't do it. But the idea is that you're only given that responsibility, that power, if you can handle it. Like Bala Salam writes another article, like, if you can't differentiate between good and evil, why would you get that power? If you were on such a situation where if you didn't have control of your thoughts, then you wouldn't be given the power of thoughts. If you didn't have control of your words, you wouldn't be given the ability to bless with your words. If you could say, you know, drop dead, and the person dropped dead, that would be, you know, that's a total waste of power. So you wouldn't be given that ability. So the only person who would give the ability with his words to make effect in the world would be someone who's able to control his language, control his words. In our generation, we have no control over our words, our actions, or our thoughts. So that is not where we're actually given control. We're given control only in the intention. And that's why it's done in this generation indirectly. So in previous generations, a person who had control over his thoughts or his emotions or his speech could actually do, you know, miraculous things by speech. He would say something and something would happen. But it was because he had such control over it. In our generation, we're just totally, you know, we're just bombarded with so much stuff. We have no control over our thoughts or our emotions or our speech. So we wouldn't be given that power to just think of something and something would happen. What we would have is the ability to get discernment, increase our intention, and then that would go down and actually, you know, reach someone. So it's indirect. And because it's indirect, then you don't have to worry. It's like, that's the whole concept of prayer. Prayer is where you want something to happen, but you let the system decide if it should happen or not, because you don't know if your desires are correct or not. So for example, you think of, I should get money, I should become rich. Who says you should be rich? Maybe if you become rich, you'll be a bad person. Maybe it's not good for you if you become rich. Maybe you'll plateau. So you say, I want to become rich. The system decides, no, this is not good for you, and doesn't make you rich. So that's one of the reasons why Kabbalists put such a push on prayer. But it still has to be corrected prayer. So you have to pray to the creator within you, not the creator outside of you. You have to like remove the interference, basically. Because if you're praying to the creator outside of you, you're still praying to the creator within you. But because of that indirection, it just reduces the effectiveness of the prayer. I actually like raising this whole like conversation about, you know, power, control, and to raise the conversation about it. People don't talk about it. They think it's just a la-di-da, we'll become the creator and it'll be all nicey-dicey. And the idea is to just raise the conversation to a bit more maturity, to raise it to a more mature level. It's not like, yeah, well, you know, when you hear the lessons and, you know, and Rav says to people, yeah, then, you know, we're able to change the world. Like, changing the world, that is responsibility. Who says you're going to change the world to what, you know, who says what you think the version of the world should be is a good change? So if you're given that power to change the world, that is a lot of, you know, a lot of responsibility. With power comes responsibility. So we normally talk about it in a very shallow, like, oh, we'll make the world a better place. And how do you define what is a better place? By which levels?
It's a conversation that when you try and have with anybody that isn't actually trying to develop, all they do is talk about their life. Can this in my life happen? Can that in my life happen? And it just turns into such an annoying conversation that anybody that can have it literally wants to tell people to shut up, because all they do is talk about 5-year-old type nuances. So frankly speaking, it's a conversation I wouldn't have often, or I would only have with select people, to be blatantly honest.
I think that even if people aren't in the conversation itself, when people hear it, it makes them start thinking about it. And that's the whole concept of system concepts, is to make people start thinking in directions that they probably wouldn't have thought of. To think of articles and different quotes that they probably wouldn't have like fallen onto by themselves, and to actually you know, contemplate about and actually want to advance. This is a very serious thing. This is our lives we're talking about, and we have to take it seriously. It doesn't mean that we can't laugh about it, but like, our desire has to be serious. Externally, we might laugh and make jokes and, oh, you see how the creative works like that? That's just so funny. That's fine. The frivolous needs to be external, not internal. And the problem is that what we many times see, we'll see people be very externally strict and we have to follow the rules and no frivolous activity is allowed. But internally, they're totally frivolous. They're like the most shallow. They hear a concept, they take it on the most shallow level. And they're like, oh yeah, the idea is to be like the creator. He bestows, will bestow. It's like, don't you want to think about it more deeply? If you're bestowing and the creator's bestowing, that means the equivalence of form. That means you become him. That's a spiritual concept. It's like, no, we'll just think of it as a total corporeal concept. And that is what, you know, needs to, you know, to help the people that are ready for it, to actually move from these corporeal thoughts and move to more spiritual thoughts. Stop talking about situations and start moving to talk more about perception differences and how you perceive the world, and not about what's actually happening. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter what's happening in the world. It matters how you perceive it. And we all know this with media. They can take one story, which in reality is one thing, and they can totally, you know, turn it around. Like, I remember there's this, like, you know, situation of, you know, one guy stabbed another. And then the media portrayed it as, you know, they took away his knife without reason. So, like, yes, they did take away his knife, but that's not the story. The story is the guy stabbed someone. So, of course, they would take away his knife. So it's like the perception at the end of the day matters to people and not reality itself, because how you perceive it is how you can actually take it into your vessels of emotion. And it's like we see people get stressed about something at work, and people are like, "Oh, what are you stressing about? You know, you're a great person. You know, you'll be successful." He's like, "No, I'm scared I'll be fired." It's like, you'll be fired. The whole company will, you know, will go down before you're fired. It doesn't matter what you say to him. It matters what his perception is. We see this with phobias and stuff. Like, a person has a phobia against, you know, the darkness, right? Or your kid is afraid of darkness. Like, why are you afraid of darkness? Nothing. It's like, oh, there's monsters, night monsters. It's like, there's no night monsters. And you're just basically having this conversation of, you're telling him what's in reality, but you're not taking into account his perception of reality. So it doesn't really matter what there is in darkness. It's what he believes or what he perceives that there might be in darkness. And that's what you have to go to. You have to go to the perception. We're trying to correct the perception and not create reality.
Anybody that hasn't reached single concealment that this conversation is had with, they think two things are going on. If you try and tell someone that they can control things or somehow they can know what's going on, the first thing they're going to do is forget that they're supposed to develop, jump to the Ari's writings instead of reading anything that's for them. And they're just going to, and by that I just mean when people jump to the Ari stuff instead of actually reading what's written for them in their generation, it becomes foolish. So it's a conversation that can be had, but if this conversation was ever had in the morning lesson, it would be like bye-bye society. You would give every person who has no desire to actually be here but has actual mental problems the ability to justify their mental problems. So it's a slippery slope, to say the least.
I agree, but that's why it's done on a small scale and not on a big scale. I think it depends on the situation. It's all about what kind of students do you want. So they wouldn't just justify themselves per se. It would mostly get rid of them because people that don't want to advance, they can't hear this stuff, and they would revolt against it. They'd be like, this sounds like total nonsense, and they would just leave.
That's what Rob thought was going to happen before he got Petatikva. Now he's got Petatikva, and what's he supposed to do to get out of that zombie trap?
Exactly, but that happens because you talk, when you say, oh, we're just here for love, it's all about love, it's all about connection, he's allowing people to understand their corporeal love. He's allowing them, he's not trying to say to them, what you see many times he'll, by mistake, expose some, secret. And then the people are like, wait a second, reality won't change? Only my perception will change? And then he suddenly backtracks. He's like, oh, okay, I see you're not ready to actually handle this. Song time. Like you see, sometimes when he tries to, when you spend so much time allowing a person to believe what you want them to believe, so you can bring so many people to society because it's all about love. It's all about 60s love, and we're all trying to connect to each other just for love. And yes, the word written in the capitals is love, but you know that they're interpreting it not as love, but as nonsense. Because love is actual power, the power of love. And so if you've raised a community, which are, and many of them, especially from 2011, when the whole Aravut movement started, and that was where the big growth of BB actually happened. Most of the people that came in that period from 2012 to now are coming in because there's a love generation. It's a 60s thing. Oh, we should just love each other. We shouldn't judge each other. We're just here for love. And then all the conversation comes is just, just connect, annul. And it just lowers it to the lowest common denominator. Instead of actually raising the society higher, it just lowers them below. It lowers them to, oh, we're all equal. So you mean I can't actually advance faster? And that's usually what Rabash wrote in the article. Like, the still collective is like, hey, you're not trying to be like us. What, we're not good enough for you? Leave. So I would say the situation of trying to just conceal everything and hoping for the best has been tried out, and not with much success from an advancement perspective. I'm trying the opposite way, where I'm just being so blunt and so exposing and seeing how that works out.
Exactly. Let's just see how this works out, because going all the way back to Abraham, every Kabbalist has done their best to add to the system, and yet every person that's taken, well, not every person, every society that's taken what was given has messed it up.
Exactly.
So,
and they wanted it to happen. Like they designed that.
But
that way.
Let's no. The idea that Abraham knew exactly what was going to happen, Isaac, Jacob, Joseph, the idea that Baal HaSalam knows exactly what's going to happen right now, believe that if you want. The idea that you know exactly what's going to happen with what we're doing now, 10 years from now, okay.
It's not that they knew the future. The thing is that when they wrote their writings, they wrote it on purposely. Like, think of the Torah, if it would just say things like, this is spiritual, instead of just like talking about loads of words and not putting any context. So the problem with all these holy books is that they lack context. They talk about a situation, they talk about the Garden of Eden. There's nothing that says there, oh, by the way, it's spiritual. Oh, by the way, they didn't have physical bodies. There's just no clarification there. So a person reads it, so of course he's going to physicalize it. So you're telling me that they wrote that and they weren't aware that, oh, most of the society is going to physicalize it? Of course they knew that. So that is total encryption. They did it that only a person of a higher perception will actually understand, wait a second, it's not talking about physical, it's talking about holy. So that holiness means, separation. This means there's something higher So it's not talking about physical stuff, but 99% of the society will understand it's corporeal stuff and live in that. So they purposely encrypted their content. What we're seeing though, and Bala Sulam did this, he started decrypting it. So he removed the restriction from unnecessary to necessary. So people who learn Bala Sulam's method understand that it's not talking about worlds outside of them, that you're going to have to go someplace to some location, but rather it's going to be something internal. It states that it states that a creature went through. So they still don't know it's about me going through that. That's already the second concealment, which is impossible to possible. So that Bala Sulam didn't remove. And he says it in the article of Disclosing a Portion, that he has still kept the second, the two parts of encryption intact. And only the first part of encryption, which is making it unnecessary to necessary, which is understanding it's talking about not some physical space, time, motion outside, it's talking about physical time, space, and motion inside, that he removed that concealment. The idea now in this generation is to remove the second concealment, which is understanding it's not talking about something external, it's talking about something internal. That's unnecessary, but rather it's talking about impossible to possible. It's instead of thinking about, it's something that happened 16 billion years ago to some creature before time, rather it's talking about me. It's states that I can go through. I can take these states and run them through me like a program. Like, as long as the program's sitting in the computer, until I run it, it's like above time, space, and motion. But when
This has been done before, though. This isn't the first time this has been done. To say that right now we're in a period that's unprecedented, that's not true. We already know what Abraham did. So, I mean, it's just interesting. It's not that the good that's going to come out of this isn't seen. What's probably more curious is to see how this gets physicalized. Because it's going to. We still had Bala Salam. We still have Arvut today. Arvut is a trap. It's a blatant trap. So it's just, the curiosity is to see where this gets physicalized and how this message becomes perverted, because it will.
Yes, it will. But the question is, what is the percentage? So, for example, I know that if I didn't have the early books of Rav Lyman, where he did talk more clearly, because it was a smaller society, and there was none of this, mutual guarantee and Arvut stuff, I wouldn't have advanced as much. So does it help having clearer concepts? Yes, of course it does. Will there be people that will, totally manipulate it for filling? Yes, there will be, but they would have done that anyway. So there's no harm there. If someone is, especially in this world where we're so, there's so much like awareness and control externally, like, the police and stuff like that. If someone just goes mayhem, he'll be dealt with. And he won't reach, if someone has a desire for filling, he won't reach that power. He won't cross the barrier. So by exposing information in this generation, we can see how in previous generations, information was hidden. It was concealed. And we can see in our generation, information is not concealed. You can go on the internet now and find information about everything. How to make a bomb, how to make a gun. You can find information that people didn't have access to. So we're seeing that the limitation is on the person's desire and not on the knowledge. And that's why I feel that this knowledge can be exposed in the most blunt way. And only those who actually want to actually able to use it will use it. And those who won't, of course, they will physicalize it. And it won't even like register in their vessels. They'll be like, yeah, I read his article, but what do you remember? Nothing. Like when someone comes out of a lesson of 3 hours and you ask him, what do you remember? And he's like, nothing. That means he just has no vessels for it to register in him. Like sometimes I tell people, did you hear what Rav just said? Rav just said that mutual guarantee is a trick to bring people into Kabbalah. And they're like, no, I didn't hear that. So people hear what they want to hear.
Sorry, last challenge. Last thing I can think of. I'm just thinking, okay, so we've never really we're giving more knowledge than that has ever been given before, but that's not what is being given at the moment. Right now is being given the power end of it. So be it that as it may, that while in the past we were able to give knowledge, and maybe even right now, early on in the society, we can give knowledge and it doesn't seem to harm people. We're talking about the control aspect of it right now. We're talking about the thing that was actually kept hidden for so long. So it is a little bit different, and it is going to be interesting. And I'm just curious to see how people go squirrely. And you can say that there's cons and there's this and there's levels of control. Sure, but those levels of control were for a system that didn't exist before. So let's see how we implement something new with low-level controls that weren't able to handle what's going to be out there. Just flipping it.
I agree. Like, this is definitely an experiment. But I think that what makes it so fun. So, if it was all pre-known, that would be a very boring kind of game. So there is difficulty levels here, and there is things we're trying out that we've never tried out before. Just like Bala Salam said, he has many articles where he says, everything I'm saying is nothing new, but the way I'm expressing it is totally new. So you can go back to the books and you'll find all the concepts there, but only after you've read his books. So I have, for example, a book on the Ari, not of Bala Salam, and they think that the light did the contraction. They don't even know about the vessel. There's no concept of a vessel being an Ein Sof. It was just the light. And the light contracted itself. Now, even though we hear it, we're like, wait a second, even in physicality, light can't contract itself. It's always the vessel that, the sun never contracts its light. It's always the vessel that contracts it. It's the room that defines how much light will go in the room, not the sun defining how much light will go into the room. But still, most people outside of the Bala Salam system still think until this day, like I have books of a year or 2 years ago in explanations, and they still think that the light did the contraction, that the creator did the contraction in order to allow space for his creatures, as if it's like a physical space, like, oh, I'm filling the whole room, oh, where am I going to put my creatures? I'll retract myself, I'll contract myself inwards, and now I have this space now for creatures. That's what they think. They physicalize it. So did Bala Salam help with that? Yes, of course he did. So we're always going to have to deal with the next concealment, with the next thing that people take wrong. Will people reading Bala Salam still take it wrong if they want to? Yes, they might. But much less people will do so. So at least when you're talking with Bala Salam, like, you'll find so many students that actually know that there was a vessel that did the restriction and not the light.
So the experiment is exposing that with Kabbalah you will become God and you can control people?
Yeah, but the funny thing is that even Bala Salam has these articles. It's just they're not aware. People don't read them. So I'm just like exposing them. I'm exposing what Bala Salam says. He has the article of, it's in the new book of the Sage's Fruit, Part 2, which was just released by BB like a few months ago in the Congress, that has there the article where he talks about, you can take a friend and you can basically put imaginations into that person and override his sense of, reality, and then he can think, oh, look, what happens. Like, and he's basically exposing there, that's what physical, practical Kabbalah was. So you take a friend. It's also written, for example, in the book of Bala Salam on his life. What's it called? Another BB book, The Kabbalist. I think it's just called The Kabbalist, isn't it? Yeah, The Kabbalist. So there it talks about how, his teacher put into his imagination like this flying bird and stuff. And then he was like, if you're going to fall for that, then this path is not for you. So this path is for people that don't fall for that nonsense, even though he visually saw it. So this content is everywhere. And what I'm doing is I'm just bringing it to the front of the table. And I'm using words that register more in the ego so they can actually look at it and read it and be aware of it. Is the awareness of the control actually what's going to give them that control? No, because if they don't have a desire for it, they're not going to get it anyway. Many people are aware of rich people, doesn't make them rich. But it is an experiment, and I do agree with that.
Great stuff, Zakai. Great explanations today. You're nailing it.
Thank you. I already know what the next article I'm going to translate. I want to do this article of the don't have inside of you a foreign god and do not bow down to a foreign god. Because it talks about this concept of that the society is meant to be something you use, not something that you bow down to in your perception. Again, we're talking about. I was this week at the Jerusalem Center. I was in the kitchen, making food for everyone. So externally, I'm a good boy, and that's the way it's meant to be. We're talking about the perception in the perception that you're meant to be a ruthless dictator. And that's the correction. The correction is not taking the qualities and get rid of them. Every quality has its place. You've just got to find the internal meaning of it. So an external dictator is bad, but internal dictator is great. If you can control your desires, because that's what a dictator is. Like, you don't want inside having a voting system where lower desires get the same voting rights as higher desires. You don't want that to happen internally. You want the higher desires to have more control of the low desires. So you want that dictatorship model inside. Externally, you want to allow this horizontal, like, the idiot on the street can vote just like someone who's rich and powerful. So every concept has its place. The question is, where do you put it? Do you correct it by taking that concept, making it internal, or do you leave it external? So control, we think of it as a bad word. Yeah, that's when it's talking about external, but if it's internal, then it actually is where it's meant to be. You want control over your reality, you want control over your perception. And that's what I'm just trying to raise. Like, stop trying to be a world reformer, trying to get rid of the qualities, and start reforming the qualities themselves by taking them from external to internal. And that's the correction.
Can I add?
Yes.
Yes. So it's kind of weird. Like, I think people have a real hard time dealing with the concept that nothing outside changes, and they expect that everything outside is going to change. Like, I mean, just talking with some people, like, for the Congress that's coming up in Romania, and I mean, yes, it's going to be an amazing, like, boost, to use. But, people are like, oh, I hope, something good happens, something happens. And I'm like, all right, inside, I don't say anything, because I'm like, well, nothing's going to happen outside. It's just, it's going to still stay the same. But I hope that your perception changes. That's all that I hope. I don't say that to them. I mean, I can, but people don't really vibrate with that, or not really believe it,
They don't have the vessels to handle that information.
You can always tell me what you're thinking, and I'll say it for you.
Oh no, I have no problem saying it. I've said it a million times, but it's like it goes through deaf ears, and it goes through deaf ears. I mean, I could say it a million times; it doesn't even matter, and I'll probably keep saying it, and maybe somebody will click, and at least for that, I can know that this person might be ready to advance a little further. So. In that way, it's okay, I guess.
Well, it's just like the books. Like, when I bought Balasanam's books, I went to the middle of Jerusalem, in the most ultra-Orthodox part of Jerusalem. And in a bookstore there, that's where I bought Balasanam's books. And so it's like anyone can buy those books. But for me, when I read it, it just clicked for me. And it was like, I just felt one with him. Like, this is my system. This is what I need to do in life. So you'll have many people that look at it and be like, nah, it's a nice book. Nah, I'll move on to the next one. So it's available for everyone to touch, but no one touches it. Only those who are ready touch it. And that's the idea of spreading Kabbalah. It says about spreading Kabbalah. It doesn't say about actually making everybody receive it. So it's giving out. You could say it's the bestowal part, it's not the reception part. So it's bestowing all these books around and giving out to people all these knowledge and concepts. But that's what brings the Messiah, the Savior, which is the pulling, the internal force that pulls us, but not that everyone has to actually respond to this. So you'll still find that even if you gave a Kabbalah book to think about it, every person, even atheists, have the Bible in their house. They have the Bible in their house to say that it's wrong, but they still have the Bible. Everyone has it. No one knows its meaning because it's encrypted. So it's like everybody has, the lock in their house. They just don't have the key to unlock it. And we'll see the same thing here. That we'll talk about concepts, and people that are ready will hear it, and people that aren't ready won't hear it. And the reason I'm doing this is to hope that people that do have the vessels for it can hear it because they need it. Just like I needed it.
I think you did a very good job of describing all of it today.
Thank you very much, Shelley. I've seen the responses, and people seem to like these sessions, so I guess I should continue.
Yeah, I mean, if you could find more articles like this, I mean, it's amazing stuff. I mean, this is,
Yes, I definitely want to do this article so you can see this is in Hebrew. That's like, this is the article here and there. And this just, like, you won't find this Shemati, this is actually an original Shemati article, but for some reason it's not in the BB version. So my job here is to expose to people things that they would have even, it never would have fallen onto their lap, because it's, first of all, it's either a society shunned by BB, for example, Berg, so that's why I brought beforehand, like the Berg. There's still Rav Ashlag, there's still Bala Sulam's materials, but because they're a Berg edition, no one would touch it. And I felt there was very important parts there that we lack in our society. And the same thing here, this is a Gottlieb book. No one who's, has adhesion with the society would read this. And also it's in Hebrew. So how would someone even know to even translate it in the first place? So what I'm doing is I'm trying to bring here articles that, for me, personally helped me advance, and maybe it'll help others as well.
What's the title of the book in English?
It's not in English, it's in Hebrew. So in Hebrew it's Hashem Shemati Shemecha. God heard my, maybe you could say prayer. It says it's articles in the working of the Creator on the path of truth from our teachers of the House of Ashlag. Right, we're up to this up. Thank you very, very much, everyone. Thank you for joining. Depending on when I finish the next translation, then I'll make the meeting afterwards. That's why I missed Monday, because I didn't have the translation up to snuff. So thank you very much, everyone.
Thanks, Zach. You did amazing. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Yeah, great job.